of the day. Our next match will be Trifecta up against CLG, and we'll close out the day with Splice versus Luminosity. But let's move on to CLG versus Trifecta, shall we? CLG, a team that has a lot of star power on it, that I think a lot of people have expected a little bit more of so far in Season 5. They're the only team in North America that hasn't made a switch in the mid lane so far all year. Do you think this is the split that CLG starts to break out?
It's definitely very possible. If there's ever a time to do it, it better be now or right before HRX. This is their time to shine. I think that the combination of Hurriwind and also fineokay have been able to withhold this team or just keep it running in the highest possible contention. Can't ever forget Homiefe and his vast god pool. That's
right. Homie likes to play some weird stuff from time to time, but Hurriwind there always with the Kumbhakarnas and the Giannis's and that kind of stuff, though Hurry will play a little bit of weirdness as well. I think that's the kind of balance for this team, where you look at this team and they were soar gaming back in the day. They were very, it was by the book. This is traditional meta Smite. We will only do traditional stuff, and that's it. And now as CLG, they kind of are dipping their toes into the, well, I kind of like to play Vamana jungle. Let's give it a shot and stuff like that. And I think finding their balance there is going to be important. Whereas on the other side for Trifecta, they still need to find their balance with their new mid laner, Paul. He came in during the summer and looked pretty good at times, but also had some rookie struggles.
He was definitely aggressive when he needed to be, and that's his strength and his weakness at the same time, because it worked out in the minor league, but a lot of these SPL caliber level players will understand that aggression and play around it, use Paul's weight up against him at times.
Zapman on this team as well, so some good veteran presence from guys like Zapman and Scary D and Mask, who have been around a long time, with the new blood of Paul. But speaking of Mask, this is going to be his final week of play. Says he's going to step back and take a break after this week. So interested to see how well he's going to perform in this one and what could be his farewell game.
Well, sometimes, playing for so long, it just kind of takes its toll on you. There was moments of brilliance for Mask, but I think sometimes the pressure might have gotten to him. There was times where his team was winning, and then during LAN, for whatever reason, he had like a boneheaded play. And if he needs to step down for the greater good of the team, then so be it.
Trifecta going to have their work cut out for them against CLG. Let's get into picks and bans here for game number 1. Trifecta in that first pick slot. And during that last game, I was sitting in the green room talking with Taco, and she and I agree that first pick seems like where you want to be right now. Just the way that there's really like 4 or 5 gods that, like, if we get these, we really up our chances to win. And usually when it's that many, it means that first pick is a little bit better because you're almost guaranteed to get one.
It's definitely a Naja, Freya, and Chernobog are my top 3 personally if you want to be that first pick potential. Athena is definitely up there as CLG takes that option away.
And Baron as well, banned by Trifecta, so they don't want to see that new mage in support. Freya left open. Paul has been a Freya main forever, and that was old Freya, but I played against it a million times. Lord knows I did, and indeed Trifecta will go for it. But we all know Zapman's like, hey, yo, Paul, can you mind if I get that? Like, can I get that?
No.
Yeah, he's like, no, this is for me in the mid lane. Quiet down, old man. It's time for me to take charge here. We'll see if he can. Terra very early here for CLG. This is very different than what we saw Space Station prioritize. They went for Cerberus every time right off the bat in the second pick slot, and it was and now it's the Ratatoskr for Homie, whereas Space Station was experimenting with some other things in that second pick slot.
I'll never forget, I think it was the Enemy versus Sword Gaming set when Panicat was on vacation back in Season 3, just came back from vacation. He was playing the Freya up against Jigz' Terra, if I recall correctly.
You're right.
And this is where Terra just dominated, got a first blood very easily level 2, and then continued to zone Panicat the rest of the game.
And that was a rough game. I remember that one as well. So you're not going to be Terra mids, not going to be laning against the Freya this time around. If Freya is in the mid lane, and with the Ram selection, I think that does lock it in. Is the Morrigan is the pick here for Hurriwind, and I think this pick makes a lot of sense. Like I said, at the earlier set, the Morrigan got a recent buff. Her clear is much better now, and Hurriwind has been a Morrigan player since she was released. So I really like this. You get double Ratatoskr ultimates. That's really tough to compete with.
I'm just looking at double Terra, honestly, at the end of the day. That is just the most obnoxious thing. One Earth and Fury comes through, you wait out that duration, and then a second one to double the duration. That's going to make team fighting against CLG more difficult.
Chang'e banned away from fineokay, I should say, banned by Trifecta, whereas CLG looked towards the jungle and at Mask with Susano and Robin, 2 of his signature picks. The Kumbhakarna there does provide excellent peel for this Freya in the mid lane, and Do you really need much more damage than Freya Ram? Can you just go, we need setup and peel at this point and we'll be A-okay?
I think so. I think setup is the way to go. You can even run Ymir in the jungle if you really wanted to, or maybe run some really jank stuff like Kumbhakarna in the jungle. It doesn't really matter what you run for a Guardian. You could even put Sobek there, Kumbhakarna solo lane coming for Trifecta. I wouldn't be surprised to see another Guardian.
Chulainn is the pick for Scary D over there. We'll wait and see what Mask wants to go. Thor is also a big pick for him. He likes to go for that, and that could be good setup and peel. But Mercury can do some solid setup in the early game and then take the ball and run with it in the late. So plenty of late game damage for Trifecta on their side. We'll have to wait and see if they can get through the early game, though, because that's my concern. Just looking at CLG's draft, and I think Achilles is a phenomenal pick here to just really drive that point home. That their early game is just way better than Trifecta.
I think so too. I agree. I like that Achilles execute also against the Kumbhakarna, trying to get that kill. And more importantly is Trifecta's objective damage. They have a lot of late game damage, but if they're still losing team fights, I think that they can easily sneak objectives where a lot of team compositions couldn't be able to do so.
Mixer chat, it's your job to tell us who's going to win this game one. This is interesting to me because Trifecta during the summer split, they were going for these hyper early game compositions. Like, we need to be winning by 22, 23 minutes if we're going to win this game. And now they're going the exact opposite. This is pure late game up against CLG. So I wonder if that's really going to work out for them. It's two totally different styles. You have to be able to play from behind very well. You're really walking a razor wire by playing a late game comp like this, because you need to contest the things that you need to contest, but also not contest things that you shouldn't be and give up certain farm, and so it takes some really uniform shot calling.
I think a lot of that has to come to Paul transitioning into the SPL back in the summer, where they were relying on his strengths, that early game aggression, Raijin, Bancroft's Talon Rush, every single game.
Good.
But now, in the fall, a little bit more mature, going for the late game.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll see if it works out for them. We'll see if that experience for Paul has paid off. It's Trifecta and CLG. Give it to the casters for game one.
Thank you so much, Agro and Toli. Joining me on the broadcast is going to be Melissa Posada, otherwise known as the best taco.
You know, it still throws me for a loop whenever you guys say my full name, because it just automatically makes me think of my parents.
That is the first time I've used your name in ever, I think.
I think in like,
I don't think I've
probably
ever
since I've known you, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you've ever called me by my first name.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel right. It's
No,
the same way that
it doesn't feel right for me either.
when people call me by my real name, I'm always confused now because I just associate Hindu as me.
I start looking around at other places too, and people are just talking about food, and they're like, "Oh, gotta get a taco today." I'm just like, "Hello, how are you?"
Oh, you excited about that?
Well, I gotta say hey to them.
That's fair.
You have to assume, and then you realize they're just talking about food, and that they don't actually care about me at the grocery store.
Listen, you're not casting with F. Now. We're not talking about food anymore, okay? Let's get on with the game. Trifecta versus CLG. Hurriwind playing the Morrigan, which got banned in the United versus Space Station set 2. Why is Morrigan seen some more play again?
Small note on that also. That was just really smart drafting, I think, from United. They know that was like just a strength of Venenu. But focusing on this match, I think that we're starting to see a lot more Morrigan, just because she does have really strong lane clear potential. We're not getting a real chance to see that at level 1, because Freya is just, I would say, a little bit a better pick right now for that clear in the mid lane. But as the game progresses, I think that Hurriwind's going to be able to pose a great threat with this double Ratatoskr ultimate. I think that was the general mindset here for CLG, is that they could possibly look to suppress Paul by just having Homiefe and Hurriwind combine their efforts to really keep this Freya on lockdown.
I mean, you think about the Morrigan too. I mean, double Ratatoskr ultimates are available if required. You could take away the Mercury or the Freya for themselves too, to have one of your own. That's the benefit of a Morrigan.
Being your own Freya is always a plus. I can't think of too many teams that would be very opposed to that right now, but I do really like that there's also just the stealth factor involved behind it. If Hurriwind's able to get off some very successful flanks, I think we could see a pretty high tensions match going on here for Trifecta.
Look at this left-hand side. Wrapping around the back comes Homiefe, and NeiruMah just ended up using his belly flop at the worst possible time. Sleepy time for NeiruMah, and he'll head back to base.
That's always one of the big dangers about trying to go against such an aggressive god like Medusa. Snoopy just has so much burst potential on this god, and the best part is that Homiefe was able to spot out that NeiruMah. It's a bit of a risk when you're a jungler, because you could be sacrificing your back harpies. You never know what's going to be invaded on your side of the map, on the other side of the map, I should say. And so for that to have actually played out well for CLG, that's the kind of start that they need to have.
So they do get the first blood and get their Chulainn ahead a little bit. It puts Homiefe slightly behind that of Mask overall. And talking about masking these two teams, really, Taco. I mean, obviously, Trifecta and CLG both trying to break the top 2 in North America. With Paul joining Trifecta at the middle of summer, that was a big transition for Trifecta where you're looking for the boom. But then, Mask has just announced that this is probably going to be his last week of competitive play for a while. And Trifecta are going to have to be looking at a new jungler, which I still don't know who that could be.
With Mask, seeking some greener pastures elsewhere, it is rather interesting, but more importantly, this invade's still happening from Trifecta. They were going for it all the way. Now that's going to provoke Hurriwind to get involved, and NeiruMah, he doesn't have that passive.
If you can just keep running in time, though, Freya is on the way. Paul was rotating from the mid lane too, just to get him out, and NeiruMah will survive. 2 tumbles for Kumba. Could have been a bit too much, even though the Kumba pick here, pretty solid. Very useful on the laning phase, a little bit undervalued these days.
The root is really strong, especially when combined with all the astral arrows. That level 1 clear was undoubtedly in Trifecta's favor just because it's really hard to handle that, especially since the support for CLG is Terra. She doesn't have the greatest lane clear levels 1 through 3. Now is the time period where you might see some of that lane control start to go more towards Counterlogic's favor, just because the first blood for Snoopy, he's going to be able to finish off that Transcendence that he opted to rush for. No blessing on that Medusa.
Homiefe going around the back towards Paul. Paul still only level 4 as Hurriwind transforms at level 5, looks for the pickup, but a double whoop. Hurriwind tries to beast to get away, eats a tower shot. He will survive, but so will Paul.
It's the mana. Hurriwind just didn't have the mana that he needed for the transformation. He dashes forward, but because he wasn't able to connect, he doesn't get the burst damage that he needed to finish things off. But you can see the concept starting to form behind this double Ratatoskr ultimate. Paul got to experience it for the first time, got a little bit lucky there as well that he didn't end up falling.
Yeah, the double whoop really did help him out, though, getting that banish off in time at the same time. But right-hand side, in the sky, Homie's coming down, but Scary D smelted out in time. Now, this transformation's about to wear off, but can he get the damage off in time? Homiefe's out of mana, so he can't dive anymore, and fineokay. Tanking the shower shots, Mask just off the mark with his ultimate.
Mask is trying to get closer. That was just to close the gap, I think. He thought he might have been in range for that special delivery, but he couldn't follow up any further. There's just so far that a Sonic Boom can take you. Now that CLG know that that ultimate isn't available, this is going to allow Jigz and Snoopy to play a little bit more aggressively if they want to, but it seems as though Zap and NeiruMah are actually the ones in the advantage as they're looking to invade again.
Yeah, because Jigz has just rotated towards the mid lane to help out there. I think he may have secured his own buff, however, and now it's NeiruMah in trouble. Hurriwind's here, but NeiruMah gets a good ultimate off to take Hurriwind out. Snoopy giving chase, and Kumba will fall again for the second kill for CLG.
They've been expecting that invade every single time, and at a certain point, I'd hope that the second time is good enough for NeiruMah. That was technically the third time even that they went to try and invade it, and still CLG just willing to clash with them head on. I think that Snoopy just provides a little bit too much damage, and giving him this free experience is not going to benefit Zapman. It's just going to steadily put him further and further behind. We need them to slow it down over there on the left-hand side of the map.
And you look at that itemization too, not really spoke about it just yet, but you can see a lot more of these teams foregoing the blessings at the beginning of the game. More and more of these, some less of the warrior blessings, more of the boots rushes that Scary D has done here for the power. And same could be said for mid laners. Paul going for that Book of Toth.
And Hurriwind rushing the boots straight away, just prioritizing his cooldowns over everything else, which for good reason. I think that you'd want to be able to spam that double Ratatoskr ultimate all throughout the early and mid game while the laning phases are still happening, because that's going to be the most punishable period for Paul.
Is it really worthwhile though? Like, does it depend on the composition you're against, whether or not you want to go for these boots rushes or the rush of the book instead of foregoing these blessings?
A lot of it kind of depends on a few different factors. There's always player comfortability or player comfort, because you never know what your survivability is going to look like in a laning phase. And enemy team composition, of course, but hold that thought, because we got Hurriwind up in the air now, going to try and juke out Trifecta.
Oh, Paul is in an awkward spot, so it's NeiruMah, but Mask shot through to the backline to pick up Homiefe if possible. Hurriwind takes out Paul though, and Mask hasn't been able to do as much as he bargained for. In goes Homie, looking to find the ultimate there, but just off the mark. Mask trying to get a lucky bit of damage off of the kill, but won't find it onto Homiefe. A CLG starting to really take control of this game.
Mask couldn't even defend his Harpies there. Scary D's got a lot of control on that solo lane side, though. fineokay is struggling just a little bit over there, but when the other side of the map is benefiting this heavily off of these rotations out of Homiefe, you can't be upset.
To be fair, fineokay, his namesake is exactly what he's probably saying to his team. Guys, I'm fine, I'm okay. Guys, I'm fine, I'm okay. He may be getting bullied in lane, but if the rest of the map's winning so much, Tucker, as long as he doesn't feed, he'll be okay.
It is pretty interesting, though, because I think that Achilles and Chulainn are both heavily regarded as those lane bullies.
Yeah.
It's just that Scary D seems to have had a little bit more of the advantage in terms of the initial laning phase. He was focusing on clearing out the creep waves a little bit better than fineokay, and plus that failed gank, I think. Also, just splitting that little bit of XP with Homie there, I think can easily give another solo laner the advantage. That's why we noticed a slight experience difference between these two.
Speaking of the solo lanes a little bit more, I mean, we heard about the Berserker shield that's coming into the next patch, Taco. Do you reckon we'll see a bit of a shake-up in the solo lane, maybe a bit more Osiris back in the action?
We've already been seeing a decent amount of Osiris, actually, and I would not be surprised if that item alone was able to reintroduce the surges of Bolognas, Osirises.
The auto-attack lane bullies.
It's been a hot minute since we've seen them, and I think right now, especially with Double Hunter being such a prevalent meta in the SPL, it could be the time.
Could be indeed. And we talk about double hunters. Freya once a time would be considered a hunter. A little bit less so now, more of a, even the way Sol kind of moved towards a more of a burst mage scenario, but definitely still able to swing and pack a punch with those basics.
She feels a lot more like a mid lane mage now than a hunter. She can still be played, of course, to suit that hunter playstyle, but with her burst potential, it's just so much better using that Northern Lights to really capitalize off of any sort of setup that your team is able to provide, and that's perfect because NeiruMah, Scary D, Mask, all of them have great ways to kind of just toss someone up.
Well, ultimates were just used in this lane by both of these players, and that's why you see Mask just looking for an opportunity to try and capitalize on an advantage Trifecta have in this solo lane, because it's the only lane that's doing okay.
Something that I really like that CLG have been doing for their fights, they've been initiating nearly all of them in the jungle, or making sure to initiate when Mask is somewhere else and can't get to the lanes in time. It's not giving Mask, if he wants to try and counter engage, very good wiggle room, because all these structures, all the weird turns and everything are just cutting him off.
Oh, Homiefe got caught during the dash and bursted down before he could get away. The fast hands of Mask set that up, as long with fineokay. fineokay trying to get back towards the tower in time and does so. Meaning Mask just off the mark with that special delivery. Couldn't find it, or should I say the sonic boom that comes into play. So fineokay will survive there with that rotation to the right-hand side. And speaking of Mask, look at this build from Hurriwind. We've already got the Doom Orb, and now he's heading into the Mask too. Which one are we expecting? Do you have an idea?
Hard to call it. I think that
Lodos?
he might be opting for Rangdas.
Rangdas.
I think that just because of the fact that it would give him a little bit of movement speed, that might be ideal for a Morrigan.
We'll find out what happens to it. Maybe he'll just leave it at the tier 2. We've seen that a couple of times as he wraps around the corner with the stealth to burst Paul, but not enough burst to get a kill. Homiefe back from his quick death though, looking at Kumbha, and Kumbha wills ultimate away, as will Paul.
Beautifully timed there by NeiruMah to use that epic uppercut for the CC immunity. That's exactly what he needs to try and be avoiding, is those little bits of knockups, because if CLG is able to get even one part of their CC chain on you, you can probably expect that you're going to die shortly after.
Gold Fury is still available for both teams, but Scary D proxying a wave is been a bit deep here. He will transform momentarily, but he's getting beat down as he does so. There's a shield, and he gets the range in time thanks to the transformation to avoid the ultimate out from fineokay.
fineokay was doing his best to try and close the distance with that execution, but at least now Scary D knows that he can afford to play a little bit more aggressively. During these early game moments and players still being slightly confined to their lanes, you've got to make sure that whatever is being called out on the map is where we'll really start to see the players choosing to push up, choosing to look for buff invades.
Item diversity is amazing right now. I'm really surprised because obviously this is the full split. We're only in day 2 overall of the SPL day 1 for North America. And the amount of different items we're seeing. I've got a Hide of the Urchin, 3rd item from Scary D. I've got the Messenger Mask and a Doom Orb for Hurriwind in the mid lane. Like, these things are so interesting to see how much viability all these items have.
The mask in general, I think, are what really is kind of throwing me for a loop here on Hurriwind's build. I think that this is just a heavy risk versus reward priority situation.
Well, if he goes for the maximum one, I agree, but at the tier 2, it's just good stats. That's generally what happens with these tier 2s. They're actually pretty cost effective too, and it gives you a nice bit of power. Can we just hover over that Messenger Mask that Hurriwind has? There we go, just so you guys can see at home. Physical power, not really important to Hurriwind, but the magical power is good. 10% movement speed and 10% cooldown reduction. It's pretty valuable when you think about it.
And if he does upgrade it, you would have to worry about those detrimental stats that start to get involved with the passive. So I think that if he leaves it at this current position and is intending for it to be that pseudo bridge item, I think that it can work effectively so long as he continues to remain unpunished, which has been the case so far.
And I've got to look at it as the mobility and the cooldown. And when you're stealthed, you're looking to get around the map quickly. Talking about getting around the map quickly, Homiefe needs to get out of danger there and does so. Beads goes into the sky. Hurriwind came around the corner for aggression, pops the Terra ultimate, and Homiefe's back in action, looking to come down. Can't catch Paul in time. Great ult from Master Hit 2, but everyone's still pretty healthy on CLG.
And yet it's Trifecta who are still scared to fight because Snoopy just came around the corner with a huge Petrify, able to clean up Mass before anything else can even be recognized. Now he's going to be forced out of the Purification Beads. Zapman trying to do what he can, but Ram just doesn't have that early game kill potential.
And Terra has given 2 ultimates in that fight because Hurriwind transformed, so it was a long time to sustain. Hurriwind, though, has been caught out of position. Beautiful snipes from Zapman, and the collapse from Scaredy really combines nicely. That could set up a cheeky gold, maybe?
It's the blink Chulainn coming back to strike with a vengeance, able to set up Zapman nicely there for the Astral Barrage. That was the poke damage that needed to take place before Zap could feel comfortable going into his ultimate. And it's the Boomba's Mass. That's the one. I believe I said Ring Dust. I don't even believe Ring Dust is... It's class locked even,
50 power, 20% CDR, 35% extra movement speed, and that's what it's about, really, the movement speed. Now, you're going to do a little bit less damage, but then, well, your abilities actually empower you as a Morrigan anyway to do more damage. And then on top of that, you're going to take a little bit more damage. But if you can't get caught anyway and you're just looking to burst, it's not too bad.
Very ideal, though, when you consider that the 30% cooldown reduction he has for this Morrigan, because the ultimate channeling takes quite a long time to come off cooldown during the first couple of levels. And so now, with this Mass and the 30% CDR, he's going to have this a lot more often to try and collapse with Paul.
So at the moment, it's 140 seconds, so just over 2 minutes. Then we cut 2 minutes when he ranks up one more time. At max level, 80 seconds with 30% CDR so far. It's going to be good times, but catching him is going to be awkward. The mobility is going to really come into play.
We're not even considering the stealth as well. Having that stealth all the time up off cooldown has got to make things pretty nerve-wracking for Trifecta, because you never know if Morrigan's going to choose to just stay in the mid lane section or if she's going to start leaning a little bit more towards duo. And partially, I think this is also part of the reason why Zapman is trying to play relatively close to that tower line, not only because of the fact that Snoopy just has an advantage being an ability hunter during the laning phase, but you just don't want to be caught out, because one kill right now could very easily spell Gold Fury for either side.
Well, approaching 15 minutes in the game then, the gold lead is only 400 gold in the grand scheme of things, to be fair. So even though, yeah, it's 5-2 in kills, it's not that bad experience, relatively even too. So even though you look and you're like, well, Trifecta aren't doing very well in these engagements, they're still farming pretty damn good.
If anything, this is exactly what Trifecta want to be taking place. It's up to CLG to be the heavy aggressors, because their early to mid game is drastically better than Trifecta's. And so Trifecta, they've had a couple of early picks, obviously, scoreline reading 2-5, but nowhere near as many as what I think CLG were hoping to achieve by now.
And you're talking about that too, because I think when Trifecta get to that late game stage and you're looking down the list of what gods they've got, Rama, Freya, Mercury, those three on the same team. If it goes past, what time are we talking there? Like 25, 26?
You're looking
32?
closer to like the 27, 29 minute mark, I think. If Trifecta can hold on till then, and possibly even sooner than that, a lot of that just depends on how Trifecta is able to accurately contest with CLG on these objectives. We haven't really seen any of the Gold Fury dances take place, not even a Pyromancer attempt from either side. Just been a lot of heavy focus towards some small buff invades, but mostly trying to capitalize on Paul being a little bit by himself.
Still no Gold Fury attempts from either team, because I don't think they feel confident enough to look around there. When you actually look at the compositions they've got, though, no one's really got a huge secure. If anyone, I guess it's Snoopy with the Petrify is probably the biggest burst I can really see, or snipes from Rama are the real two for securing that Gold Fury, because the mid lane mage is not as good as most of the others we've seen in the Pro League.
It does also mean, however, that Trifecta, they have just as good of a chance of stealing it as Counter Logic Gaming have of securing it.
That's very true. And I think that's one of the reasons why you don't see either team going for it just yet. Wall coverage pretty solid around this area too, as Homiefe was sniffing around the left-hand side, but so is Masked and Paul. But this is more for the red buff. which is bursted as quick as you'd expect from a Freya Mercury.
They're getting ready to fight. Nice blink mezzin onto 3 from NeiruMah. Beautiful sonic boom out of Mask. Going to catch out 2, but that's just forcing the actives.
Hurriwind goes to the back line as the Morrigan pick up and comes through, but Hurriwind cleans up Paul. Paul didn't even get his ultimate off in time there. Homiefe then lands down as the other rat and takes out Zapman. 2 of the carries are dead.
This is the team fight capabilities that we knew CLG had in store. Now it's going to be fineokay with the execute onto Scary D. He was probably their best line of defense after NeiruMah. Going to blink forward even just to force Mask away from this Gold Fury territory. They don't want any chances of this being stolen.
I mean, Trifecta set that one up with the blinking from NeiruMah, but there was just not enough damage at that stage of the game. Nobody in the right position or had the cooldowns available, I guess, to try and put the damage down onto the Yawn targets, followed up by the Sonic Boom. Everyone in CLG was like, okay, now we go aggressive.
I just have to commend Hurriwind for these transformations so far. Every single one of them has been what I feel is the right god for the moment.
And this is what CLG are looking for this split. They've been on the cusp of breaking the top 2, top 3 for a while now. A lot of these players have been on the big stage before on this team with these guys or with others too. And they want to make sure that the run towards Worlds for them gears them up to make sure they get a spot at DreamHack. But first of all, they've got to get better in the league standings. And that's what they're after here against a team that, on paper, this is a 50-50 matchup.
And it's interesting to note too, but you can really tell that CLG were banking on the early game aggression because Snoopy didn't even prioritize lifesteal early on. He went straight for the Crusher after the Transcendence and Boots, just looking to build up as much damage as possible. Now, most likely headed towards that Bloodforge.
Bloodforge, not Solia?
Bloodforge.
Really? I'm a big fan of Solia, that's why I'm like, I want to see if we do see more Solias in the Hunter role, but we'll find out if he does go for the Bloodforge. A lot of power on Bloodforge, and obviously that big old shield if you get a kill.
He's been getting a lot of those, by the way. 4-0 and 3, only missing out on 1 kill. And I believe that was the one that took place in mid lane.
Well, here we go. Dancer on the red buff draws everyone from Trifecta there. And Scary D was trying to rotate there too. Instead, he ate more damage, but Mask went in on his own to help out Scary D. Zap following up the snipes, trying to push them back a little bit more. Jigz popped the ultimate in response, though, to top up his team and keep them healthy. And now it's a 5-on-5 towards the mid lane area.
Great damage from Paul, but CLG with that Terra, they've got the sustain game underway, and not the same perks for Trifecta. If they want to try and seize this T1 tower, it's going to be a little bit tricky with all 5 grouped, however. Doubt that CLG really want to chance it, but with everybody being drawn towards the mid lane,
Great call, homie.
can possibly see another invade happening.
Well, Homiefe during that, realizing the fight was going to a wash. He's just taking the tier 1 tower on the right, but NeiruMah realizing that, going aggressive in mid towards Jigz. Ruin in place, but in comes fineokay, stuns the whole team. Petrify hits, and Snoopy takes out Zap into the sky, gets thrown by NeiruMah, but in the sky again is the rat. Everyone's up in the air, some by choice, some not by choice.
The Scary D now stuck in the center of all of them, trying to push fineokay and Jigz underneath the tower, hoping that the T1 can clean up somebody, but to no avail. CLG with the successful turn and burn onto Trifecta.
11 kills in 20 minutes with a huge, well, not a huge lead, I should say. It's only 6,000, but it's about to get worse. The Fire Giant is pretty much free here for CLG. Couple of towers left. Actually, well, all the towers, bar the one on the right side they just took. This gold swing could be monumental.
They're not all healthy, but they are still standing, and that's the important part. CLG actually has escape routes that are reliable to fall back into. If a T1 is a little bit too low, then teams typically don't feel as comfortable trying to make their defenses underneath them. And Trifecta fully understanding that even with Zap and Paul revived, it's still not safe to try and contest underneath that T2. No one was in position. All the members from Trifecta just trying to push the lanes up as much as possible, seeing if they can maybe get away with taking out a T1 or so, but mostly just looking to have the creep waves in their favor to try and waste some of CLG's Fire Giant time.
CLG looking damn good. Like,
They
really
look clean.
good for this. Yeah. Overall, I'm looking at them and going, I expect United to be the most aggressive team in the North America, but I think CLG are right behind them, if not matching them. I'm going to be interested to see how those two teams take each other on.
These team fights have just been so chaotic because of the Morrigan pick. You just never know if Hurriwind's going to be the Ratatoskr aggressing you initially or if that's Homiefe from the start. And with that in mind, as long as CLG are able to continue with this heavy confusion factor, then Trifecta have got to be infinitely more careful about burning their actives.
I actually think Homiefe has had an amazing game this time round. He's only got 1 kill for himself, but he's been initiating so much just because of the start of the game too, helping out the duo lane. These rotations, the pressure he's putting on mid now, he's allowing the rest of his team to get towers on the left-hand side. I think he's had a stellar performance.
3-man strong in the mid lane, and Zapman all by his lonesome. Of course, he can't defend the T2 towers. With this T1 being not even half health, CLG won't have any issues taking this one out. But I am banking on Trifecta looking to make a last stand underneath this mid T2, or at least attempt to see where they're at.
You're right, because the teleport's coming through, so it will be a defense from Trifecta. All 5 members here, but Mask gets clapped in the face. Scaredy on the front line, gets giggled out by Snoopy for a second. As in goes fineokay. In and out, he's got aggro, but on the right-hand side, Hurriwind's coming in as a rat. Spin to win, Paul in trouble. NeiruMah knocks into the sky as Jigz now jumps and jumps, but the damage hasn't been done yet. Fire Giant is keeping CLG topped up here.
But look at Snoopy. Heavy focus the whole time onto the T2 tower. Structures are what matter in the end here, and they knew Trifecta would have to back off. 3 ultimates expended for the team. NeiruMah doing what he could. I like that he knocked up Hurriwind there, because had Hurriwind been left to his own devices, he might have been able to cause even more damage than what he did from the start. That was a great 3-man knockup onto the back line of Trifecta, and I think that's what really caused him to scurry back.
Yeah, that whole team fight in the mid lane, it's 5-on-5 that became a 4-on-5 when nothing happened, and the right-hand tower went down soon after that. It was just a big old siege. The CLG took every tower on the map. The Gold Fury, the Fire Giant, Pyromancer is still available for them, and now you're looking at, well, 13,000 gold, 13,000 experience, 23 minutes in.
It's just so difficult for Mass to be as successful with the huge sonic booms. He's had a couple of really nice ones, but they've been primarily defensive. He's never really had a chance to be aggressive as he wanted to be on this Mercury, and I think with the Hazen Katana in mind, he's trying to just look to stick to his opponents, but CLG, they've been grouped the entire time. The moment that Hurriwind or Snoopy starts to get even the slightest bit aggressed on, you just see the team turn around immediately and look to save their carries. Not to mention,
that's where the issue really lies, is trying to save their carries, because Mask and Scaredy can jump in, sure, but then they're having to turn immediately because Paul and Zap can't really follow up because they're a little bit behind, at the same time as worried about getting dove by 2 Ratatoskrs and an Achilles.
They're just stuck. They have nice ranged damage, but they can't get close enough because they're just getting bursted down too quickly. There's just so much CC happening from Counter Logic's engagements that Trifecta are more focused on just burning out their relics to get away to safety, as opposed to being able to effectively initiate back into them.
So I don't think the comp from Trifecta, by any stretch of imagination, is bad. Maybe I'm looking at this and I'm like, maybe the Morrigan is a bit of an issue here.
The Morrigan is a heavy issue here.
Yeah.
I would argue that the Morrigan is the sole reason why this strategy from CLG has been so successful at preventing Freya from taking off here.
We'll find out what happens next, taking off literally, like she does.
Literally,
yeah.
I guess in a sense, but it's just that Paul, even though he wasn't necessarily dying every single time he got ganked in mid lane, he was still being pushed back further and further, whether he had to go all the way back to base or whether he had to just stay underneath the T1 tower. That's still him not being able to get farm from the mid Harpies, and those eventually do start to add up.
It's going to be an awkward moment in the game now because there's nothing really for CLG to look to invade other than maybe speed before Phoenix lines, but they would like the Fire Giant first, and I'm not sure if Trifecta are going to feel comfortable trying to contest the Fire Giant. This is going to be probably a Phoenix defense situation.
When it comes to the jungle engagement, CLG just have Trifecta's number down packed. That's the ideal scenario, is for Trifecta to try and contest underneath Fire Giant, because jungle is where double Ratatoskr combination works best. Even Medusa Petrify, we've seen a couple 2 at a times from Hurriwind and Snoopy. And I love the way that they've constantly just been stacking everything together back and forth, one after the other, waiting to make sure that if beads and Aegises are being used, then they're not wasting them at the same time.
2 Fire Giants down there and 2 Gold Furies 2. We all know what the state of this game is going to be, and the question is, what is Trifecta's defense like? Because sometimes you can sit on Phoenix lines and survive and make them kill themselves almost with the Phoenix defenses. Can they do that here?
You have to keep in mind, we are getting closer and closer to the late game approach, and it's around the time period where we might really start to see the pop-off moments from Zapman and Paul. They've got to be the real superstars here. Mask, he's been trapped. He's got Jigz to worry about with the monolith walls, everything cutting him off every which way. But if Zapman and Paul can get off some successful auto attacks and really deal their huge swings of damage, that could prompt CLG to just want to back off.
However, looking at what the Zapman and Paul, those are the two that you're looking at. They're both only level 18, not level 20 yet, which is pretty impactful. It's an extra health, extra survivability, extra damage too from not just the abilities, but those basics. Hopefully, they can make something happen, though. CLG going to split things up here. 3 on the left, 1 in mid, and 1 in right. So trying to pull Trifecta here and there, allowing them not to have a straight-up 5-on-5. Trifecta going to send 4 to the left-hand side. Mask is trying to deal with 2 lanes at the same time. And I don't know if he can.
Mask having some difficulties over there with Homiefe, but he will manage to force that Ratatoskr out of the Phoenix for now. It's up to Trifecta, though, to try and recover this left-hand Phoenix that's falling pretty quickly here to Snoopy.
Really good rolls out from Jigz there, and now Scary D and NeiruMah forced to commit. Banish hits 2, and Scary D's getting low and gets executed by fineokay. In comes Hurriwind, turns into Homiefe, or at least the rat, as Zapman's beads are forced. Now Zap trying to turn on and get some damage off, but the CC chain too much. Mask just misses the Sonic Boom. All the while on the right-hand side, Homiefe will take down the second Phoenix.
But all the clutter and chaos is exactly why Trifecta aren't able to really sync up as effectively as they want to. Zapman now under pressure here from fineokay, looking to chase out Paul. They've already got the beads. Now they're just looking for the Aegises. Now they're looking for the Titan.
And they will get the Titan. 12 kills in 27 minutes. Not a high-skill current game over in North America. For either set 1 or the first game is set 2, but very quick.
It was rather fast, but I think that was also just credited largely to Trifecta trying to play passive. They were trying to buy some time for those late game hyper carries to come online. Unfortunately, it just was never really able to be as effective as what they originally intended. Just too much pressure and chaos out of that Morrigan.
CLG looked fantastic that game. You guys at home get to choose who you think was MVP for that game. There's quite a few to talk about. Snoopy got all the kills. I think fineokay did a good job of surviving the laning phase. Then you've also got the Hurriwind in the mid lane on that Morrigan.
I have to give it to Hurriwind for my personal thoughts, just because I think every single one of his transformations was as effective as it possibly could have been each time he utilized it for the gods that he selected.
Well, let's get over to the desk to break down game 1 before we get ourselves ready for game 2.
CLG get off to a good start here up against Trifecta. Trifecta never really seemed to get the ball rolling. I mean, we're 3 games in here totally on the day for the SPL, and every one of them has been pretty quick.
It was just a battle of the junglers. More defensive ultimates coming from Mask, whereas Homiefe was just letting them rip those global ultimates, favoring through the Cosmos. And I gotta give credit to where credit is due. Hurriwind playing the Morrigan, taking a small risk with the Bumba's Mask, but working out well.
Very, very nicely for him. I love that the Bumba's Mask on Morrigan because, yes, you deal a little bit less damage, but right now the Morrigan isn't a one-shot character anymore. It's 70% then transform. Now you do 65% then transform, or 60%. It works out well, and it worked out well for Hurriwind. He is your Game 1 MVP on this Morrigan. Snoopy as well had a phenomenal game. He got off to a great start. Soloed Zapman, I believe during this fight, while all this was going on, I believe this is where Snoopy indeed does kill Zap in the solo.
You can never be mad when a team has 2 Ratatoskr ultimates to be used. You use one to engage and then another one shortly after, and that was the consistent target. Just more knockups. Knockups is probably the best form of CC by my money, and I think Hurriwind definitely agrees.
Exactly. He also had some opportunities to transform into Terra and use that Earth and Fury to try and turn team fights one of the best team fight ultimates in the entire game. The ability to be flexible with the Morrigan. Everyone can say, I'm going to turn into this dude every single time, sure. But to judge the situation and change based on it, I think is what really sets apart these top-tier Morrigan players.
And Ratatoskr is such an easy go-to selection as well, because when you're maxing out Dark Omen, you're also getting the Ratatoskr second ability on top of it, extra physical penetration threats, allow Homiefe the extra burst.